Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am Honorable Hon I Dahir Abdi, member representing Banisa Ward. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to heartily thank the great people of Banisa for demonstrating a very tremendous confidence in me and overwhelmingly electing me to represent them in this honorable house. Mr. Speaker, before me are honorable members who have been elected across from the 30 wards, who have been standing up or rising up to contribute to the address of the governor. Each of them beginning with thanks they have, or they give thanks to the people who elected them to this house, Mr. Speaker. And they have all I've been listening, I've been watching very keenly every person who have stood to contribute to the address of the governor, started by the word, the confidence the people had in them and elected them to this house. Mr. Speaker, mine is more than confidence. It is actually the tremendous one. Because, Mr. Speaker, I am the only member in this house who have garnered a total of about 5,000 votes. 5,000 votes. In the entire 30 wards of Mandera County, Mr. Speaker. Beating my closest rival with over 3,500 votes, Mr. Speaker. In a layman statement, if you subtract the vote of my number 2 from mine, the difference is 3,500. That difference is more than the total vote garnered by the second most voted member in this house. That is none other than the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Muhammad Ibrahim Eid. He is actually my number 2. He got 3,559. But the difference between me and my competitor is bigger than his vote, Mr. Speaker. That is why I say the confidence I have for the people of Banisa is tremendous. It's not just confidence. Mr. Speaker, and I wish to beg Mr. Speaker from today that I should be considered a Super MCA, Mr. Speaker, in this house. Mr. Speaker, as if that's not enough, I say number 1 is me, number 2 comes from Terkhale Ward of Banisa constituency. And number 3 is Honorable Muhammad Rashid Golo of Kutulo. Number 4 happens to be Honorable Yusuf Sheikhadan from Kiliwehiri. Mr. Speaker, that shows you number 1, 2, and 4 comes from Banisa, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the people of Banisa owes this government a great deal of gratitude, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, myself and few other members like Honorable Faisal Abdinur, Abdullah Mahlassan, Honorable Rasho, no, not Rasho, Honorable Sokore, Honorable Hussein Aliou Maalim, Honorable Khuya, have happened to be a pioneer MCAs in this house, Mr. Speaker. For me, this is the 3rd time I was privileged or I was honored to be given this position in this house. The Speaker, that is to say that I have been a member of this house since its existence. And some of us can tell you a lot of experience that you can laugh for the whole day, Mr. Speaker. We have begun as leaders in this house when actually we don't know where to start and where to end. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I am eternally grateful to the privilege and honor and magnanimity that was bestowed upon me by the people of Mandera for the last 3 terms now, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if I stop the thank here, let me a little bit see and contribute to the address of the governor. Mr. Speaker, I have read the address of the governor, and the governor, in this address, he has clearly demonstrated his knowledge of the challenges afflicting our people in Mandera County. If you look at everything, most of the things he addressed are challenges. In all the sectors, he addressed the challenges that is facing our people. And we all know that we have been disproportionately affected by the global nature of so many crises for the last 4 years now. It ranged from COVID-19 of 2020, which is still claiming the lives of our people. It ranged from the tension of the so-called the world superpowers who are fighting, the Ukraine and the Russia, our neighboring country fighting, the Tigray fighting the federal government, the Al-Shabaab fighting the federal government of Somalia, all the neighboring countries fighting. These are some of the challenges that have currently led to the global financial crisis or increases in the price of commodities, Mr. Speaker. You know how the price of fuel is overwhelming currently. So the governor clearly demonstrated these kind of challenges that is facing us in his address, if you keenly look at it. Mr. Speaker, that has significantly disrupted our lives. Business have had to adapt rapidly to survive for the last 4 to 5 years. And we are very grateful that the governor had immense knowledge on addressing these challenges. So his address is more of the same as finding a very practical and viable solutions to the challenges we are facing, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as a member elected to this House, and entirely the whole House, our role is to assure the government support and commitment in order for him to achieve the desired goal, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, the governor's success is our success. And our success is ultimately the success of our people. So our role is to give him support for him to be able to find solutions to these challenges that I have mentioned, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, going through the address, I have also noted a very important topic that needs to be addressed. Mr. Speaker, as you know, resource allocation to this county is very insufficient. We normally get resource allocation from national government, and the resource we get from national government is so insufficient that it cannot be used to implement some of the great plans and ideas of the administration of MAC and His Excellency William Samoei Ruto. Why do I say this, Mr. Speaker? I have never found anywhere in this address the governor mentioning about anywhere he mentioned how to raise an extra revenue for the county outside the national government allocation, which is peanut, actually, Mr. Speaker. I expected the governor to raise issues regarding locally generated revenues, Mr. Speaker. That will have helped a lot of things, like unemployed youth. Mr. Speaker, some counties like Nairobi and Kajiado raise.
Home members, please note that we have limited the debate of the governor addressing to 5 minutes for each member speaking through procedural motion. Please be guided. Be guided.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think there are no members. There are no many members who are addressing, who are, I think, on their feet, ready to contribute to this idea. So, I think my 5 minutes begins now. Mr. Speaker. I said, Mr. Speaker, some of the counties like Kajiado and Nairobi raises more locally generated revenues than the resource share they get from the national government, Mr. Speaker. Others like Kiambu, Nairobi, and Machakos also raise about 70% of locally generated revenues above the shares they get from the national government. Mr. Speaker, I therefore suggest and recommend to the administration of MAC that his team may perhaps find a way to enhance collection of locally generated revenues without exploiting our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to urge His Excellency the Governor and the leadership, the top leadership of our party, UDM leader, the Governor Emeritus, His Excellency Senator Ali Ibrahim Roba, that, Mr. Speaker, they leverage on the post-election coalition that was signed with Kenya Kwanza coalition recently in order to accelerate development in this region, Mr. Speaker. For instance, Mr. Speaker, I read something in both the manifesto of the governor and this address that the governor has a desire to provide NHIF cover for 20,000 households across the county, targeting the vulnerable population, Mr. Speaker. And similar project, or that is aligned with Kenya Kwanza manifesto of covering, of providing NHIF cover for all citizens, Mr. Speaker. If you look at Kenya Kwanza manifesto, they said NHIF cover for all the citizens. If the government were there to fulfill that promises, Mr. Speaker, I want to recommend His Excellency the Governor of Mandera County to maybe channel that, redirect that resources meant for that item to other important projects, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, another area for cooperation with national government is proposal of establishment of the Development Fund for Women and Youth. The governor mentioned about creation of Development Fund for Women and Youth. And you know very well that His Excellency William Samuel Ruto is also intending to establish what is called Hustler Fund, Mr. Speaker. If the national government is there to fulfill that promises of establishing Hustler Fund, then, Mr. Speaker, our Development Fund for Women and Youth will end up becoming a duplication of the Hustler Fund, Mr. Speaker. I therefore suggest that the establishment of fund should wait and be aligned to the Hustlers Fund as complementary, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, because you are asking me to finalize, I also read something very important in all the paragraph of the address of the governor.
Please, order.
I am summarizing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the governor said we must engage one another well as members of this house, or this house with executive, or the government with the people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need to acknowledge that this house, the composition of this house reflects Mandera's diversity. It reflects our diversity in a sense that across political affiliation, which is reflecting that we come from different parties. We have members who hail from different backgrounds. We have members elected to represent a special interest like Honorable Sokore, who is currently nicknamed as a special member. We have all the members, several members who have attended different schools. We have 50 of us who have worked in different fields before we join each other in this house, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am glad that members who have sought to represent the people of Mandera have done a very important task. Last week, when you have been discussing a broad range of topics in this house, I have seen these are very matured leaders who had the interest of Mandera. We should therefore acknowledge that there are no answers. Because some of us are old enough in this house, and we should give you advice, Mr. Speaker. There are no answer sheet to the challenge that we face. There are no straightforward solutions to the challenge we face as a community. What we want you to do is we need to grapple honestly and openly with the difficulties we face, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you have seen what currently are happening in Wajir, and we cannot afford our diversity in view to lead us to polarization. We cannot afford to allow our diversity in a view to lead us to partisan division in
your
this
time
House.
is up.
Mr. Speaker, I conclude there. I stop it there. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.